Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest and latest episode of the Nyliff podcast. This is the fifth episode, and today my guest is TJ Kiss. Now, I don't know what the TJ stands for. I don't know if it's a secret.
No, not a secret. It's Thomas Jr.
Oh, okay.
In my days as a waiter, I used to offer people free lunch if they could guess what the J stood for, because everybody always would guess Joseph, Jeffrey, something like that. Nobody ever guessed it was a suffix.
Right. Interesting. Now, one of the things that's cool about this, for me, is that there's so many people we see at Nyliff that we know them in passing. They come in, they show the film. It's like great to see everybody, but then they leave. So sitting down with everybody like this is...
Yeah,
it's cool because we get to know the filmmakers better. We get to see what, more inside the person,
right?
The creative person.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
That's it's just something that we feel everybody can participate in, and then they'll have something to show. And I know you brought a teaser for the new film that you're doing.
Yes.
And I want to get right into that because I know Necromance is. The name of it.
Yes.
And it's a horror, and I know that we've thought of you as the horror guy, but
correct,
you're a cinematographer, editor, writer.
I have done, yes, all of those hats I have worn.
Everything.
Yes.
And again, like I say every time I'm here sitting with somebody, it's amazing seeing everybody that they do everything and they do it well, and it's kind of the way this business has become. You have to do it. So why don't you start by telling us where your filmmaking career drove you into horror and what your plans are to stay in that genre? Or
okay, so really the horror aspect came out of I guess the first my frequent co-writer and a friend of mine, Phil Butehorn. He had an idea for a short where there was a delivery driver who got like strange instructions and eventually got killed by the people who were dropping it off. So he gave me that idea. We talked about it. I wrote it, and then we made it, and that was called Door Death, and that was my first like stab at horror, so to speak.
Okay.
And then after that, I went right into writing Renters, and Renters, I wanted to. My favorite genre is not horror. It's the blend of horror and comedy together. That to me is so appealing. Like I always say, Shaun of the Dead is like to me one of my all-time favorites because that's like almost a comedy movie that blends horror into it as opposed to a horror movie that has a bunch of jokes,
Right.
So I tried to kind of do that with Renters, and I did try to kind of do that here with Necromance as well, where it's a nice blend of you laughing and then being scared or grossed out.
Right. Because when I first met you, I remember thinking he seems like such a nice guy. Comedy would be where I see you, but again with the horror. But as you explain it, that explains now. Today, when I woke up, and I was not to like segue into something else, but I said, let me bring this out into the show today. I woke up, you had one of those days you wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
Oh, I don't know
crabby,
about those.
Right. I'm like everybody on the road, everybody driving a car, everybody I came across at work just ticked me off. And when I started thinking about this industry and as a musician, as a filmmaker, and the days that you wake up, and you feel like that when you have to film. And it's interesting because I don't know what you do for a living, but I know that for me, when I'm doing the things that I'm really passionate about, like music and film, it's so easy to turn that bad mood around. And I'm thinking, okay, when you're doing something like horror, do you have to get into a different mindset? Does that mood help you? Because I know if you're doing comedy, you wake up in a great mood, but also you can channel a bad mood into sarcasm.
Right.
And so I said, well, how can I work this into the podcast?
I see.
Where I could ask you. So
I will say this: when it's a day that we're filming and I wake up, like they're very happy days when I wake up like that. Even on the days like I have little kids, so I'm up very early every day.
Right.
But even on those days I'm up very early with not a lot of sleep, there's still more bounce to my step because I know that day I'm going to be doing something that I really love and that I'm doing for me that I want to do. And so that just is the driving force. It just I really just love doing it. The first time I made something and the first time I was editing it, I can still remember feeling the smile being so big on my face and feeling like this is so much fun. I want to never stop doing this.
Right. And now doing horror though, you putting that comedy in it, I guess helps keep that mindset? Because you always have a smile on your face. You're
Yeah.
always like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that horror genre, I would think, pulls people into a dark place. But you don't go there
No.
because of the humorous aspect of it.
And like even when I'm writing a kill, let's say, I'm looking for people to like. It's not even so much I'm looking to really scare people, but I more want people to be like jumping back, oh my god, and like even sort of laughing at how gross that this might be that they're seeing, right? Like, oh my god, I can't believe you know what I mean? But I'm not really like cerebrally mentally trying to I could write that a lot better than speak it. I'm not trying to scare people in that sense, at least not in this project.
Right.
I do have an idea for something else next that is more in vein with that.
Now, do you prefer to stay behind the camera?
I have no problem going in on camera, and I've done little cameos, and obviously in all my early things it was me in a lot of it because that's what you're gonna get in your stuff.
Right.
But I'm very comfortable. I have no problem doing it. I enjoy it. Everything about the whole process to me, and including being in front of the camera, is very, very fun. I really it's Sam Jackson, I heard say in an interview once that it's you're playing Maple Leaf like you did when you were 5 with your friends, but now you're doing it for real, and it's just for fun. And like that's kind of how I feel when I'm doing it. Like we're all just having a great time.
When you get right down to it, that's what you're doing. You're playing cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, and pretending to be somebody else. And sometimes you can hear people talk like it's, when they get into talking about the craft, and like it's like there's two kinds of actors. There's the ones who just go out there and do it, and you feel like I don't know. I find comedians very often make some of the best actors. So you got Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Tom Hanks, all these guys. They started out as comedians, and they're so natural in their acting ability. I don't think any of them went to any kind of acting schools. You never hear them really talk about the craft of acting. They just kind of go out and do it.
Yeah.
And I always say that sense of humor is so important in the acting profession. And then, of course, you have your classically trained, your method actors. Your, sometimes they can borderline on that snobby, so. Now, do you find with actors when you're looking for humor, like I noticed with your casts, they do have a certain, they get it. You can see it in their faces. And everything that I watch with your films, do you cast people or do you go through a painstaking process to find the people that you feel can deliver what you want? It's
a mix of both.
Okay.
So, like half of this cast is people that I've worked with before. And obviously most of those people I hadn't worked with before I worked with them the first time.
Right.
I always try to work with people again. I call it my film family. It's a term I've used since the very beginning of this. So when you work with me, you're now part of my film family. And if I make something or I do something next, I'm going to come to you first to see if you're interested, and vice versa. If you need help, I will help you to whichever extent I can. So there's been a mix of that, and then there's also I've done blind casting calls, and I've just called acting schools, and there's somebody who's in this who I literally just happened to follow on Instagram because she was following somebody else I was following, and she showed up and looked like perfect for a role. She again, like I've only speaking to her over Zoom, but we spoke, we had a read, she did great, she read exactly like how I would have wanted it, and it was like a perfect fit.
And you did it over Zoom?
Yeah, we did it over Zoom.
How do you like the Zoom?
Oh, it's not great.
No.
It's not great, but it is a great tool because I work as a restaurant general manager, which you didn't know what I did before. Now you know what I do for a living. So my time is very limited, and it's also very weird. My hours are not normal hours. So I can go home after a day of work where I work 10 to 8:30, and then get home at 9:30, and we can have everybody jump on a Zoom, and we can rehearse for an hour and a half. And we've done that all along this process, and it's been extremely helpful, whereas if we didn't have that available to us, we'd be doing it on set, which is just going to push everything, make everything last a lot longer.
I think we have this love-hate relationship with technology because it does help, but yet you don't want to be stuck with it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like in a pinch, those Zoom things are nice. But I feel like right now I'm trying to put together a reading for the Fontanas, And, it gets difficult. When we first started, everybody was there.
Right.
But now you get into that groove. It's like, oh, maybe I'll just Zoom. But it's not the same.
No, it is not.
One-on-one, especially when you're looking for that humor. And when I write, sometimes I'll write something, and now my cast, we've done 7 episodes, so I want them to bring that humor. Because they are the characters.
Yeah.
And that's hard over Zoom.
Yes, it is. We have a scene coming up in about a month that we're going to do that is just like that, where it's very based on timing.
Right.
So it's going, if I'm not able to get everybody together, it's just going to be, we're going to have to spend some extra time doing it. But that's already a day where I have, we're going to be there all day. We're going to be filming all day, a bunch of important scenes. But we're going to get it all done, but we're going to invest the time.
When I first started making films, my brother said to me, what's so difficult about it? You just get a camera, you turn it on. He had no concept. Mm-hmm. Never really thought about what it takes to make a film and doing scene after scene after scene. And I remember listening to his words and thinking, you don't know what you're talking about. There's shot lists and scenes and, all the lighting and everything. But then I thought back and said, at its basic core, he's kind of right.
Yeah.
And as a director, as when I was talking about the snobbiness of this business, it's very easy to kind of people in this business to want to elevate themselves to this unreachable level. Right. And I think Hollywood has ridden that myth for a long time, where most people felt, I can't do what they're doing. I can't make a movie like that. And I think what we're finding out now is that you can. Mm-hmm. And the technology, again, has helped tremendously. But recently, Jerry Seinfeld just made a movie called Unfrosted, and he directed it. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, what does this guy know about directing?
Right.
And he admits he doesn't know about directing. Now, he's Jerry Seinfeld. I'm sure he had people all around him helping him. How do we do the shot? How do I do that? What do I say? Mm-hmm. But he doesn't have any ambition to direct. You have ambition to direct and become a cinematographer and become that. Did you go to school for any of this?
No.
Right. No. You just taught yourself and passionately learned more and more. Now, do you feel that if someone were to come to you and say, we've got this Shaun of the Dead's type of script, we want you to direct it, are you stepping into that? Are you confident that you...
That's a very good... So, Quentin Tarantino, who I'm wearing a shirt for Quentin Tarantino today, but he said, I heard him say something a while ago where it's, as a director, you don't need to know, you don't need to be the best at everything, but you need to have the vision to tell people who are great at what they do to get your vision across.
Right.
And that's something I've tried to, and I think the fact that I didn't go to school for this stuff, when I was in college, I had a roommate who was a film major, a suite mate who was a TV major, so I helped them on all of their stuff. That's where this little seed got planted many, many years ago. As a director, you need to be able to... I'm the one that's got the vision of what needs to be on the screen.
Right.
And I might not... I'm kind of colorblind, so I'm not great with lighting. I'm not great with that. But people who are good at it with it, I can tell them what I want, and they can show me, and then I can tell them a little more, a little less, whatever it might be, and then I can get it across, and then you can end up with great results. But you need to trust those people and understand that, and you need to give them the empowerment, in my opinion, to do that, because you're going to get more results out of people, because you're going to get more investment from them.
Right.
They're more into what they're doing if you're letting them do it, as opposed to, trying to rule with iron fist, especially when you're somebody like me who frankly doesn't really know all that much. I'm still learning as we go here, but I have a very good idea of what I want to put on the screen, and I think I do a pretty good job of at least explaining that to people. And I'm very lucky again to work with some extremely talented people that are doing some great things for me right now.
Now you say you've upped your game as far as the equipment you're using. Now you said you were using the Blackmagic. Have you used that for all the films, or is this something?
So up until now, I've done everything on my iPhone.
Okay.
So this is the first project where where everybody involved here is like Josh Graydon, my cinematographer on this, is it's his camera.
Right.
But he's seen some of what I've shot because I've done 2 proof of concept scenes.
Right.
So he already knows, and he was a cinematographer on one of them, but his able to show what I tell him and what I'm thinking. And then he even blows me away with what I see afterwards when I'm looking at it. I'm like, that's what I was saying, but even better. Like,
right.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Let's take a look at it.
Sure.
Take a look at the... It looks fantastic, and
Thank
that's
you.
why I ask about the film, because I remember your other films, and this does look
Way, yeah.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because the other films, they're good films,
Yeah.
but it almost gives the illusion right off the bat
That it's not.
these are better
Yeah.
and that those aren't.
Correct.
And that is where I get really frustrated, even with my own work. You know, it's like, do you take that plunge, and you're very fortunate.
They are trying really hard with these phones to get the camera as close to that level as they possibly can.
Yep.
And eventually they probably will get there where they're going to be. I mean, it's just Steven Soderbergh. I think he shot a film on an iPhone. I think he did an actual movie that was released on an iPhone. This is a real big-time director.
Right.
But this was like 5 years ago.
I remember during the pandemic, Kevin James made a short film, and it was shot. Of course, there was thousands of dollars worth of equipment around
Yes.
the iPhone, but the iPhone was the camera.
Were those all of his like little shorts that
Yes.
he did? Those were a huge influence too for me because
Yeah.
I was like, these are like amazing. They're so
Yeah.
perfect, really short, sweet, to the point, funny.
Now, do you find horror helps in the film festival world? Because I've noticed when I go through and submit films of my own, or even researching Nyliff, that there are horror-only
Yes.
festivals. There's not too many genres. You don't see comedy only.
Right. There's not drama festivals.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely opens up a lot more opportunities, and it is because it is a very rabid, specific fan base. It's kind of like hockey, like a hockey fan base.
Right,
where It's
right.
like there's not quite as many, and they're a little bit more underground, but they are as hardcore as you can possibly be.
And you've attended them.
I have not been. The only horror festival I did get into, Door Death got into. It was in upstate New York, but the day that it was screening was the day we were filming the first proof of concept scene for Necroman, so I did not go to that. So pretty much your festival is the only one that I've gone to thus far. We'll see if that changes next year.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think this will.
That's the
Now,
plan.
this is a
That's the
feature.
whole. Yep.
How long do you anticipate?
It's probably going to be like an hour and 10 to an hour and 15 minutes, roughly. I'm guessing.
Good length, good festival length.
Yeah, and for this, like, like a horror comedy can only go on so long, like
right. And again, with the horror, I've wanted to go to some horror festivals just to see what they're like, to see what the crowd is like. Like, is it? But last year at Nyliff, on the Friday night, we had I think it was 8 or 10 horror films. So we did the whole horror block Friday night, and it was pretty cool.
That was really cool. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I think we're going to do something similar
again
again this year, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I'm not a big horror guy. That's why I like your work, because the comedy is there. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to see a horror movie, there's certain parts of horror that I just have to stay away from. As a parent, I can't stand when kids are killed, and I know that if it's really goofy, like, you know, the way the old Jason movies were,
right,
and then I can
the classic slasher stuff. That's different.
Yeah, it's and of course Dawn of the Dead, and because they're so ridiculous,
right?
But when it's too real, that's when I don't like it. And then if it gets really real, like, obviously religion is a real thing. So when it's centered around the devil, like The Exorcist, to this day,
that still gets
if I sit in my living room 1 o'clock in the morning and watch The Exorcist alone in my house, I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to sleep. I'm not without hearing every noise or every. Right. It still has that effect, and I don't know if today's audience would feel the same way. the pea soup and they
probably not.
Probably
no.
not.
I mean, I didn't when I saw it, and I saw it when I was like 15. So we're talking mid to late 90s. Like it didn't scare me.
15
I thought
in the mid 90s. I envy you.
It was. I thought I found it like again. I found it funny because the effects. At the time were great, and even now I still like watching. I'm like, some of the stuff is cool. Although like that poor woman, they like screwed up her back for life because they were like pulling her with a rope,
right?
And they used the take when she got hurt, like in the film. It's funny. That it's
and that's why you make the films you make.
Right. Well, I'm not trying to hurt anybody, and I won't keep it in probably. Yeah. So that movie even then didn't scare me to that point.
Now, okay, if you weren't going to make a horror film, what would you make?
So I do have a couple ideas for comedies. They seemingly both have to do with like like high school to college age people. Guys, one is like a group of 4 friends who are like 15, and then the other one is based on myself and a friend of mine who one summer ran a snack bar at a very, very expensive pool.
Okay.
And obviously we were 18 and 17, so we did not do the best job in the world, and so there's a lot of stories in there that can be used and embellished upon and grown upon to make a fun little comedy that also, and now trying to make a feature which involves a school and all these other things.
Right.
Now I'm thinking like not just as a writer and as a writer/director, I'm like, okay, if I really want to make this, like something like this where it's just a pool and then maybe somebody's house, I can do that relatively easily. Whereas right now it's been not a struggle, but it's been a painstaking process to try and secure all these different locations that I wrote in there because I was like, I just want to write the best script I can.
Well, if you're not doing anything Friday, you can come down to the Lindenhurst Moose Lodge. George Massimillo.
I will be
premiering
there.
You
okay. I will be there. I cleared the night off from work.
Good.
My wife is coming. My parents are coming to watch the kids, so she's finally coming out to meet the film family. We're finally getting her out.
And and that film, it's in a school, and where they shot that, I'm sure George will give you a lot of.
We've spoken about that. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
And that's the Nyliff way, connecting everybody.
Absolutely. That's how I met George, was getting into the first Nyliff, which he didn't even have a film in, but he went into because he got into it, I guess, the year before and probably the years prior. So he saw Renters, we spoke, and then we continued talking, and then it's gone on from there.
That's great. Yep. And okay, so Necromance is going to come out. When do you anticipate?
I'm hoping to have it come out towards the end of summer, early fall.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm kind of going to be editing as we go because we're not filming like in 2 weeks and then we're going to be done, or 3 weeks. It's really because of, again, my schedule and everybody else's schedule. Everybody's so busy.
Right.
We're picking and choosing times when we're doing, so we're kind of slowly going along and getting different scenes taken care of. And then come June, towards the end of June, we'll ramp up because I have a lot more time available and people available. And then once we're done with that, I'll try and fly through the editing as quick as I can.
Is there any place where people can see some of your past work?
So yes, everything. You can go to my Instagram, KIGB Productions. You can follow Necromance 2024 on Instagram as well. And then my YouTube channel, Kiss It Goodbye Productions, has all of my shorts and everything like that on there. Renters is streaming on the Trauma Now app, which, that's one horror festival I went to, is the Trauma, which is horror, but also that would be a fun one for you to go
to. If
you really want to see that.
Yes, good festival.
Yeah, so we actually, and Trauma, we have, that's who's doing our effects, some Trauma alum. My high school classmate, Steve Lewis, who we reconnected after not speaking for 20 years, not because we were mad at each other, just because we both graduated. But he was a stand-up comedian. I started writing. I sent him some of my stuff. And then when I started getting into he was the star of Door Death. And then he started doing special effects with Trauma. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, the work he's doing is incredible.
And I'll tell you, you have a perfect name for this business. Have you ever thought of changing it? Because I know sometimes people have a Neil Diamond. That's his real name.
Yeah, why would you?
And I read where he changed it early in his career.
Really? Why would you do that?
The man had the perfect name.
Yeah, no, that's why when I was thinking of like a name for like a production company when I was first doing this or whatever, like I have to use Kiss. Right. So that's why it came Kiss It Goodbye, because that's the best one I could think of.
Yeah, no, it's a really good name for that. And I know what I wanted to ask you about. Now, Jen.
Yes, Jen.
L-Man.
Oh yeah. Yes.
She's a character.
She is.
She really is. I mean,
she has. One thing I will say Jen was one of the first like professionals that I worked with in this, and she's been involved in almost everything I've done since then. And her makeup work is top notch.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm again, I was just saying about Steve Lewis. The other half of that is Jen, who's doing a lot of like Steve's doing like the blood spray effects, and when we do other things that I'm not going to give away now that happen.
Right.
But Jen's more of like the face, the skin being ripped off and stuff like that. That's so some of the stuff that you'll see when that comes out that she did, in addition to just her regular makeup work,
Right.
is great. And having her on set is just fun because she gets so involved. She's your behind the scenes person when she's there because she's always taking pics. She's going live. She's putting it on her stuff. She's always talking about your stuff that she's working on. So anything that I've done with her, she helps me essentially with doing that.
And she's got a really good sense of humor.
She's like I said, she's a lot of fun to have
Right.
on set because she keeps it lively. Yeah.
Now, do you have a log line that you use for necromance? Is there like a
So it was the high school it girl dabbles in the dark arts to have disastrous consequences. So now she's not just all that; she's undead.
Okay.
But I think it should really just be she's not just all that; she's undead.
Right.
That will be what I put on the poster on the bottom because the other one is too long.
Right. Yeah, that'd make a nice poster.
Yeah.
Did you have a poster for it?
So we did. I have some new options now because with the shoot we just did, we did take some wonderful pictures of Sabrina Rudden, who's our star as Birdie. Originally, Vanessa Randazzo was slated into star, but due to some personal reasons, she had to drop out. And then Jen, like a couple of days after that happened, sends me a picture and a phone number and says, I just met this actress, Sabrina, who I think could be a good fit for Birdie. And then we talked, and Sabrina has been a godsend. She's been amazing. She's like taken the character and run with it to the point that when we filmed the scene in Birdie's room, she showed up at the house that we were filming at with boxes of stuff to decorate.
Right.
And so she decorated her room like she's owning the character. I told her there are directors in Hollywood who have actresses who are making millions of dollars that get 1% of the buy-in that you're giving me for nothing.
Right.
And I can't thank you enough for that because that's the kind of stuff for me that's invaluable because I can't do it without that.
Having people like you that appreciate the people that are doing this and making this possible for you, and I think that's the greatest part of this little film community, especially on Long Island, that there's so much appreciation and people working together. It makes you really want to see people make it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm so excited when people say they are doing something. I'm like, I want to make sure I can go and see it when you get it out. If you need any help with anything, let me know. Or, if you need, I know this actress, if you need something like that. Like, George and I have bounced people off of each other for auditions and stuff like that. So it's a great little community that's growing here. And I've only been here for a couple years, but I've seen like it's like doubled in the last few years that I've been here, where it just seems like it's just growing and growing and growing.
Yeah. You have these 4 people in your film, and I'm casting something, and I go, wow, those 4 people would be really great, and I contact them. We're not studios. They're not under contract with you. But if I were going to use the 4 people you have in your film, I would place a call to you and say, hey, PJ,
I would do the same thing. How would I feel if somebody didn't do that? Is what you're asking me. I don't know. I suppose I would be. It depends on what my relationship is to that person. If it's somebody who I've casually met in passing a few times, at festivals and don't have a close sort of relationship with. But if it was like somebody who I talk to regularly or anything like that, that might ring a little bit different.
Right.
But I would think it would just. For me, I probably wouldn't say anything, but in my head, I would think it would, like, why wouldn't you just at least be like, hey, look, these people you're working with are all great. I want to use them in something else. Do you care if I contact them right now?
Right.
But at the same time, like, you're right. Like, nobody has to work with me.
No.
So I
I've
can't really
had
argue.
filmmakers call me and say, hey, I want to use this person, that person. Well, I don't own them. In a sense, you're Paramount, and I'm TriStar, and George is, Universal. So you're borrowing each other's people on that same level. So, hey, maybe I should do that. Maybe,
It is an interesting question. It's not something I really thought of.
Right.
Now I'm thinking back I've asked people, but I also I don't even know if people were working on anything at that time that I was aware of with people. That,
Right.
you know, I think, so that's something to consider too, I guess. That's an interesting
It's
question.
right.
Yeah.
It's just a thought that, you know, Laura Sinclair. I'm sorry,
Gilchrist?
Laura Gilchrist.
Yeah.
Laura Sinclair is not in my thing, but Laura Gilchrist is in the Fontanas.
Yes.
And I know George worked there a lot, so I just felt compelled. Hey, George, is it all right if I like? It was just, but then at the same time, you're saying, "Well, I don't really have to do that."
Right.
But it just seems like a common courtesy.
I suppose my question usually, actually, I would normally just ask, like, how was it working with this person? What were they like? What was your experience like?
Well, that's a different topic.
Right.
Now you're,
Yeah.
you know, but that's true too. And I guess, like everything, we're all having fun at a lower level, but as it moves forward, even, you know, like with my band's together now 5 years, and it's a little bit more of a business.
Right.
It was more fun in the beginning when we would just, hey, let's see if we get a gig. Now it's a business, which you're always walking that line of not wanting to take the fun out of it. So sometimes I got to say, guys, nope, let's have fun.
Yeah.
And I think you hear people that in this business have made it for real, and they say they're not having as much fun as they did when they
Right.
were doing this. So I always say, try and embrace this, enjoy what we're doing, because it's fun.
Yeah.
I look at what your films are. You must be having a ball.
Oh yeah, we have every day that we film is like my best day on set ever.
Right.
And I thankfully can say that multiple people has said that to me after, that this was like one of the most fun experiences they had on set.
Yep.
Was when we filmed. And I would hate for that to ever not be the case.
Right.
But I'm sure if you get to that level, that it's hard to maintain that level of fun. But that's where I would say you got to step back and think about, again, what are we really doing here? You know, we're playing make believe.
Yeah.
So let's play make believe a little bit. So one of the things that I think always helps keep it light and fun is to let the actors ad lib and stuff like that as they go. I try to always tell my actors, like, my words are not scripture. Like, if you can say something a little bit different that
Right.
comes out more natural, that's great. The thing that we just filmed, Travis Grant, who's playing our lead's boyfriend in the film, there's a joke I had written at the end that when we were doing our Zoom rehearsal, which thankfully we did, it really just wasn't hitting exactly the way we wanted it to, so we kind of worked it, and then he thought about it, and then the next day we tried a couple of different things, and then we found something that I think really is like perfect.
Right.
And that would not have happened if I said, just read what I wrote, you know?
Right.
And also, again, that's immediately, in my opinion, just bringing the level down on everything. Again, it's different. If I'm paying somebody a lot of money to be in my film, then, you know, also, not that I didn't spend a lot of time in writing this film and stuff like that, but again, I'm doing this for me. Sean and I are making this film for us with the hopes that people love it, and then it helps us to try to make other things easier.
Right.
But if this is something where, you know, we have $10 million behind it, then I'm going to spend a lot more time crafting every single word in that script. And then maybe at that point I might be like, well, I just want you to say what's on there. But then even then, we'll do takes where you can say whatever you want.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, I'll edit out whatever I want, because that's what I'm going to end up doing. But on set, when you wanted to keep it light, you want to keep it fun, that's a great way to do it, is let the actor do what they want, even if it's for a take that you have no intention of using, and then sometimes you find out that's the best one.
Right. And I think along those lines, having a big budget, for me, would increase rehearsal time, which is where a lot of that off the cuff, you know, because like they say, you know, when you see a movie, they'll say, oh, Robin Williams ad-libbed this whole scene, or they didn't just ad-lib it. They ad-libbed it and practiced, and it became
the
part
actual,
of the...
yes.
Right. So that's where I get frustrated sometimes, is you don't have the practice, you don't have the rehearsal time that you wish you had. But yeah, that would bring out a lot of that creativity. And then if it's not there, because sometimes people want to ad-lib, but they're actually rewriting.
Yes.
You got to pull them back and say, no, now you're changing the story.
Yes.
So having that rehearsal time, I think, would be one of the more valuable things about having a budget.
Yes. Yes,
So
100%.
even moving forward with my project this year, I said, one thing I'm going to do is rehearse more.
Yeah. You can never rehearse enough, because
No.
the whole idea is for it to be as natural as possible. The only way to do that is to do it like a million times.
And again, with comedy and horror, sometimes the exact opposite's true, because you hear about all, like, Jackie Gleason refused to rehearse because there is a certain natural off the cuff. So
well, also Jackie Gleason is Jackie Gleason.
Exactly. The man was a genius.
Me off the cuff, probably not the same.
But we don't know. We might be the unsung young herd geniuses of the future. And
are we the new Laurel and Hardy? The new Laurel and Hardy? TJ and Jerry?
Yeah. Who knows, right? When Jackie Gleason was sitting down with some guy doing whatever a podcast was in 1950 or 1945, he wasn't
That's true.
the genius.
Yes, no.
So who knows? Who knows what the future holds? And I always like to say we may be, starting this new movement, changing the game, changing Hollywood, changing the way films are made and viewed, and we're part of that. So you feel like you're part of something that might be looked back upon at some point and say, wow, it was beginning right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Why can't Hollywood East Coast be on Long Island?
Right. And I think, I say it all the time, I think Hollywood is changing. It's definitely not the way it used to be. They've run out of ideas.
Well, clearly, that's been happening for a long time.
And on the film festival level, there's so much more creativity. I say it every time. I say it on so many of these shows. And I think that's one of the most important aspects of what's going on right now is, I don't know if you saw it today, I posted on Facebook about Netflix and
no, I did not.
I just posted, I was like, last night and the night before, I was like searching for something to watch. I spent the whole night searching for something to watch. And, they're not stupid. They got us watching Netflix, Hulu, Prime, all this other stuff. And when you find something you want to watch, even if it's from 30, 40 years ago, there's an extra fee.
Right.
So they lured you in. Now you're paying $10, $15, $20 a month to have this service. And when you go to watch stuff, the only stuff you really want to watch, you have to pay extra for.
Right.
Because so much of the newer stuff is reboots, retreads, and they're just not as good. And I do a lot of talking to people, and like the comments people posted on Facebook today, everybody's sort of feeling the same way. It's being dragged down, and Hollywood has kind of lost its way. There's a new Planet of the Apes movie that came out.
Yeah, I know.
I want to see it, but at the same time, I go, it's another movie about talking apes and non-talking humans battling, and they're going to fight each other over something. And
right.
It's going to have maybe some kind of a twist ending. It's not really a twist ending like it was in 1968 with the Statue of Liberty.
Right, because it already did that.
They already did it.
Yeah, and
we're done.
Can you top that? No.
No.
Right. They've tried a million times.
Put the apes to rest. They'll bring it back 20 years from now again for a new audience. Maybe they'll act like it was new, but stop.
Yeah.
Create something new. And that's what I like to see. And that's what you're doing. And I wish you a lot of luck with it.
Thank you.
And I'd like to see what else you do, because I want to see the comedy of TJ Kiss.
It will be. This is not. I'm not stopping anytime soon. Like I said, regardless, one day it'd be great if this was something that I was doing to support my family and live my life.
Right.
But worst case scenario, if this is just something I do for fun and I enjoy it, and this is my spare time, then I couldn't really think of anything better.
Right.
Obviously, spending time with the family and the wife, babe. Obviously, but in my spare time, the limited spare time, I mean.
Yep. Well, we wish you a lot of luck with it.
Thank you.
And
same to you. Same to you.
I look forward to we'll see the film at Nyliff.
That's the plan.
This year.
That's the plan. Yeah. As long as I can get it done in time, which is, again, the plan. The plan has worked the way I wanted it to when we started 2 years ago, this process. So we'll just keep following through on the plan, and hopefully it works.
Very good. We look forward to it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Nyliff Podcast. We'll catch you next time. Have a good night.
Take care.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent.
Thanks, man. This is awesome.